Welcome to the podcast, everyone. I'm Robert Cabral, your host, and this is Canine Conversations, the podcast where we talk about everything dog. If you love dogs, you love this podcast. If you don't, time to leave. All right, today we're going to talk about Christmas puppies. And first of all, I want to wish you guys all a Merry Christmas. And I do say Merry Christmas. I hate happy holidays. It's one of the things that drives me absolutely bananas, and I'm going to tell you why. Before we even get started with the Christmas Puppy Podcast, it's not a holiday puppy podcast, it's a Christmas Puppy Podcast. Before we get started, I'm going to tell you something. First of all, I was raised Catholic. I've studied religion my whole life. I love religion. I have a deep faith. I believe in God. I have a deep faith. The reason I think it's important that I don't shy away from saying Merry Christmas is because if I believe in Christmas, let's say you're not a Christian, and I believe in Jesus and Christmas, or let's say even just the spirit of the holiday, and I want to wish you a happy Christmas, that's my right. And it's not only my right, but it's my obligation to share something that makes me happy with you. And that's why I say Merry Christmas. Now, when it's Hanukkah, I say Happy Hanukkah. If it's Kwanzaa and I know it, I wish people a happy Kwanzaa. Ramadan, whatever the holiday is, I want to wish somebody a happy one of that because I want to share happiness with people. That's just how I roll. Now, if you're Jewish and you wish me a happy Hanukkah, I'm not going to be offended. If you're Muslim and you want to wish me, a happy Ramadan or whatever the holiday is for you, I think it's fantastic. I love it, and I'll share it with you because you want me to be happy. I want you to be happy, and after all, that's why we're doing this podcast. We want everybody to be happy, especially dog lovers. So I don't shy away from that. As soon as somebody says, Happy Holiday or something like that, I say, Merry Christmas to you too. That's really, really important. So we got all the new podcast gear. It's all going well. I just got back from getting my car fixed. Had some issues with it, but it's getting fixed. Still fighting with the Mac. It's going back to the Apple store, hopefully tomorrow. They're going to work on it again. I got issues with the radar. Anyway, I think I've bored you guys to tears with that, but it's getting fixed. It's all going to get handled. Hope those of you who are members of my website, you're enjoying the website. You're enjoying all the great member content. If you're not, check it out. If you are so inclined, be sure if you're on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, follow YouTube, follow me on all social media. Basically, anywhere there's social media, I'm there. That's actually not true. I'm just on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube primarily. And Twitter, I think things feed over. I don't know Twitter that well. I guess I should learn anyway. All right, so we're going to talk about the Christmas puppies, and it's a subject that's really near and dear to my heart because I love dogs. And if you love dogs, then you'll really hate the idea of Christmas puppies. And I'm going to tell you why. You got to think about it outside of the box. Okay, so on the surface level, Christmas puppies are a great idea. They're warm, they're fuzzy, they're cute. They're going to enhance your life. You're going to have a great life with them. You're going to love the puppies. You are going to share your life with them and all that. And that's all good, right? That's all. That's the fairy tale. Now, the reality of it is it's a bad idea because puppies, for the most part, are an impulse item. That means people say, oh, my daughter wants a puppy. I'm going to get her a puppy. Where in reality is you want your daughter to have a puppy. And kids love puppies, but kids are tortured by puppies, and puppies are tortured by kids. And I'm going to tell you why. Because puppies, everybody wants the Marley. Everybody wants the sweet little Enzo, from Racing in the Rain. Everybody wants that sweet dog. But for the most part, you've got to realize, like when we got the Dwayne-mater, he's insane, right? Puppies can be crazy, and they're going to nip at little kids. They're going to bite them. They're going to, mess in the house. They're going to take their toys. They're going to chew up their bed, their shoes, and all that stuff. And then kids are going to try to get into it with them. Then the puppies are going to get rambunctious, and you're going to have this complete disarray in the house. Because most of the time nowadays, parents are so soft with puppies and soft with their kids. They give in. Kids are screaming in the cereal aisle, and the parents are like, okay, pick whatever cereal you want. It didn't happen when I was growing up. I disagree with that whole lighthearted parenting thing. I think parents need to give structure, just like I disagree with the way people raise their puppies. They give them way too much freedom, and it ends up biting them in the ass. It's not a good idea. I will say Janet's doing an amazing job with Dwayne-mater, and I would have thought she'd be much softer, but she has learned and has seen firsthand what great what a great gift structure is to a dog. And Dwayne is just a fantastic dog. I mean, just the best puppy in the world, because Janet is really embracing the idea of being structured with the dog. I'm not saying be mean to the dog. I'm not saying hit the dog, kick the dog, punch the dog, yell at the dog. None of that. That's all ridiculous. It's all really, really, really bad. What I am saying is give the dog what the dog needs, and that's structure and guidance. And that's really what we expect a leader or a parent to give us, is structure and guidance. So the idea is they keep us safe and they give us structure and guidance so we can function. That's what our parents are supposed to do, our teachers are supposed to do, and everyone. That's the real point of everything, is that structure and that guidance. So usually that's not going to happen, right? So people who buy puppies on impulse item are going to end up taking care of it. So that, they say, oh, my daughter's going to take care of it, or my son really wants it, he'll take it for a walk. Nowadays, I don't know where you live, but you can't trust your kid to take a dog outside for a walk. They're going to get abducted by some crazy, idiot child molester, and you're going to be playing Liam Neeson and Taken, trying to find these kids. So, it's a lot more work than people let on. They don't understand that it's going to take an immense amount of work for you to have that dog. And for, nowadays too, I was talking about with my friend who works at the bank. He wants to get his daughter a puppy, or his daughter wants a puppy, and he said, I can't do it because we live in a condo, and there's no place to put the dog. He said, well, if we had a little yard, we could let it out. But what kind of life is that for a dog, right? I mean, think about it. Parents are at work 8-9 hours a day. They're driving back and forth. They're away 9-10 hours a day. The kids at school 7. I don't know how many hours kids go to school nowadays, but for the most part of the day. So the puppy's going to be alone from 7 in the morning until about 5 or 6 in the evening. What kind of life is that going to be for the puppy, right? I don't know how old you guys are, but back in the day I was growing up, and I'm saying back in the day because I'm old. I'm so old. Somebody put a comment on one of my YouTube videos that said, "Crawl back in your grave, old man." I mean, I thought that was so funny because I'm not that old. I'm in better shape. I guarantee I'm in better shape than the punk who wrote that. I bet $100 on that. So if you're going to call me old, do it to my face. That's a really bad thing. But anyway, but back in the day, 40, 50 years ago, your dad went to work and your mom stayed home. Now people are going to say, oh, you're a sexist. You don't think women should work. I got no problem with women working. I got no problem with it at all. I think it's fine. I think it's a more balanced household if, when the kids come home, the mom is taking care of them, the dad's at work. I kind of like that. I'm old school. That's the way I was raised. I don't see anything wrong with it. I know some people are going to be really offended by it. Some crazy, nutcases who are all angry. I mean, they're angry about everything. They'll be angry if I say, oh, the father should stay home and the mother should go to work. They'll say, oh, you think a mother should go to work? But anyway, total bullshit. So, but anyway, so, if you had a mom staying at home, or a dad or a parent staying at home, and then the puppy was home with them and they had somebody around them, and then the kid came home and there was a kid at home, the whole Leave It to Beaver kind of lifestyle, probably be better, right? There'd be an easier lifestyle for the dog, and the dog could really understand that, benefit from it, and really have a nice life. But that's just not happening now. So 2 parents are working, kids are at school, kids are doing stuff after school, and all this crazy stuff is happening. So the dog doesn't have any interaction during the day. So some people take their dogs and put them in daycare, and they have a walker come by and walk them 2 or 3 times a day. But the dog's not getting interaction, right? If the dog is off at play care or daycare or whatever they call it, in one of these places where the dogs play all day, that's not really bonding the dog to you. You're not really getting the dog for the right thing. You're kind of using it like a teddy bear. Like when you get home, oh, you cuddle the teddy bear and you put the teddy bear away and you go to sleep. And that's kind of what these dogs end up like. So it's a harder life. I agree. It's tougher. I mean, if you still have that old school family, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's a great way to live. And your puppies are with you. If you work from home, for example, so a lot of people work from home nowadays. I work from home. This is my home here. And my puppies or dogs are always with me. So I'm very, very lucky. I'm extremely blessed in my lifestyle. Thank you to you guys for making my lifestyle possible, because I share my love and passion of dogs with you, and I hope that you can kind of emulate or take some parts of it away. And if you do work and you have a dog at home, you're doing the best you can. But when it's a puppy, a brand new puppy, I disagree with it. You got to have somebody taking care of the puppy. But it's not up to your kids to push you into wanting a dog, right? It's just not the way it's supposed to work. You don't say, oh, I want a Ferrari. Well, okay, then, dad's got to go buy a Ferrari. I mean, it's ridiculous. It doesn't work that way. So, what I really like to stress to people is that puppies aren't a gift. And I'm going to go further than that. I'm going to say dogs aren't a gift. Dogs are living, breathing creatures that need a lot of responsibility. They need love. They need structure. They need training. They need guidance. They need all these different things. And it's kind of like making a decision to have a child. I hate to say that because it sounds like I'm anthropomorphizing the dog, but I'm not. I'm not saying to treat the dog like a child. What I'm saying is the dog needs attention as would any living creature, right? Unless it's a bird in a cage, which is a horrible, horrible pet. I did it once. I would never, ever, ever do it again. But puppies need that interaction. Any animal does. You need to have that time to dedicate to that animal, whether it's just for socializing the dog, being with it or being around it, hanging out with it, playing with it or whatever, or training it to the next level. You've got to be there for it. So anyway, when people get into this puppies as gifts, it's a real material thing. It's like, oh, here's a puppy. Boom, you put it in a box, you give it to them. Oh, it's great. Yay, yay. And the next thing you know, a month, 2-3 months later, the puppy's chewing up the house, pissing on the rug. And then what happens? Dog goes to the shelter. And that's where I come in, right? That's where I always come in because I see these dogs at the shelters. And I will tell you that animal shelters are flooded with Christmas puppies, right? It usually a couple months after, 3 months after, a dog's too much. Oh, I can't take it, or this or that. So if you want to get a Christmas puppy, just wait till February or March. You go to the shelter and you pick one up at a bargain. They grow up, right? And they're living, breathing, thinking creatures which get into trouble. So they're going to do stupid stuff like tear up your shoes. They're going to chew your carpeting. They're going to piss in the house. They're going to crap in the house. They're going to do all these things. And you can out-train it, obviously, but most people don't have the patience to do that or the foresight to know that the dog's going to do that. And then you end up with puppies that just, that are not loved like they should be. They're not given the structure that they really, really should be. And that responsibility is what you've got to look at. It's not that impulse item. Oh, it's Christmas. I'm going to get my daughter a puppy. Nice idea. You want to teach your daughter responsibility. You want to teach your son responsibility. I get it. That's really cool. But there's more to it than that. If they're not going to be responsible, the other creature, which is the dog in this case, suffers. And that suffering is something you should think about because you are going to be part of that suffering. He's going to make you really, really miserable. And the dog will be passed around from home to home to home until it either ends up in a home or it ends up being killed in a shelter. And that does happen. So don't think that's not going to happen. A lot of times people who are irresponsible with puppies, listen to my podcast, listen to other people's podcasts on the topic, listen to research. There's tons of research online. I Googled Christmas puppies just before I started the podcast, and I saw tons of articles on why it's not a good idea to give a puppy as a gift. I think it's fantastic. I love I was really expecting to get on Google and search Christmas puppies and find ads for puppies, but it wasn't. What was great was there's all these blogs and these articles telling people why Christmas puppies are a horrible idea, and I think it's fantastic. So do that. Just do a quick Google search, and hopefully it'll talk you out of it. Now, people always say, well, why are you always talking people out of dogs? I'm not, right? What I'm trying to do is talk people who are going to get a dog into understanding the responsibility of what it's going to take to care for that dog. Because if you don't know that, you're going to get a dog and you're going to make the wrong move. That's as simple as that. It's like Jan and I were talking about getting a Tesla, and she said, well, the Tesla, the problem is if you accelerate, you hit that gas button, you're doing 0 to 100 in like 3 seconds. And that's true. But if you know that, you have the option not to step all the way down on the gas pedal. So if you're used to driving a little, a Prius or some little, not powerful car, and I don't know if Prius are powerful, I've never driven one, never will, and you hit the gas on the Prius or whatever, don't scold me for calling a Prius, but then, and Prius drivers drive me bonkers. A lot of times they're so entitled, they're just cutting people off. Not going to get into that. So if you're used to driving a really slow car, let's say an old Carmen Ghia, and then suddenly you get in a Tesla and you hit the gas like you would on that old car, you're going to go through the back of the car, and the car is going to go, hit the like a supersonic boom really quick, and it's dangerous. So when I'm telling people not to get dogs, it was kind of a segue. When I tell people not to get dogs, what I'm really telling them is not to get dogs without knowing what you're getting into. Really, that's the conversation. I wish everybody in the world had a dog, but I wish they all knew what they were getting into. I wish they really knew what it's going to take to give that dog a great life and to keep that dog until the day it takes its last breath, right? That's the point, right? The idea is you take that puppy and that puppy stays with you until you bury it. That's hard to say, but that's the way I approach all my dogs, right? When they come to my house, then that's it. I mean, I remember I rescued Boots a few years ago. I'll do a podcast about Boots and Silly at some point. And he was really aggressive. I mean, super aggressive. He bit everybody, went after dogs and cats and everything. And I brought him home and he tried to attack my dog, Silly. And I said, you know what? I made this commitment to take this dog. And I knew if I couldn't keep him, I'd have to take him and put him down. So I took him, I trained him, and he lived with me until the day he died. He only lived a couple of years, which was, I don't know, actually, I don't think he even lived a year. Super sad. I was devastated when he died, but he had some kind of a heart condition that he died in my arms, which was super sad. But the idea is that the responsibility starts from the minute I take the dog till the minute I don't have the dog anymore. Not, oh, well, let me give him to a shelter. Let me give him to this. Let me give him to that. That's just bullshit. I hate seeing that. So, another thing with impulse items, and this is whether you're getting a dog for a birthday present, a Christmas present, a Hanukkah present, a Kwanzaa present, or whatever your holiday is, then you're going to more than likely not search out the best resource where to get a dog, right? So it's very hard. We think it's easy now because we have the gift of the internet. The internet's amazing, right? We all use the internet. I called my mechanic. I said, hey, it's the transfer case motor that's bad on my car. And he looked at it and he put it through all these tests. And 2 hours later, he said, you know what's wrong with your car? It's a transfer case motor. You know how I knew that? Google. Google told me that. Because I put all the information in and so many other people had the experience. So what we do when we go to look for a dog is we go to Google, right? Or we go to maybe another search engine. I don't even know if there's any other ones left. I'm sure there are. But you'll search it and then you're going to research, oh, now the person who's paid the most money and who has the best software engineers is going to go to the top. Now, you can go search puppies, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to come up with these puppy mills. I'm going to do it really quick. Actually, while I got you here, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go puppies for sale. Puppies for sale. Okay, here's the things that pop up. Adorable puppies for sale. California pup lovers wanted. Puppy spot. Puppy heaven. Puppy heaven. Recycler, right? Now, if you buy a dog on the recycler, you got a huge problem. Another, puppy spot. Next day pets. Fancy puppy store. Puppy find. VIP puppies, not VIP, puppy finder. Gooddog.com. So, next day pets. Just by virtue of the name Next Day Pets, it bugs me, right? It just sends a ripple through my veins that I know that all these places are puppy mills. And let me describe to you what a puppy mill is. I did a podcast on the puppy mills, and please listen to that podcast. But if you get a dog from someone who is overbreeding their dogs, and these people have to make money, right? If that's their business, that's what they got to do. There's nobody breeding dogs who's making a living on breeding dogs if they're doing it responsibly, right? Think about that for a second. I'm going to break it down for you. If a puppy costs, let's say $1,000. Let's say, okay? And you're also I know if you search for a puppy, you're going to search for some Pommy Poo or Yorkie Chi or some crazy nutty mix. You're going to get into the whole multi poo mix thing. It's already bad. But here's the math. If a female breeds once a year, which is a lot, right? If every single year this female is going to get pregnant, right? And that female at the end of the year, let's say she has 7 puppies, and each puppy sells for $1,000. That's $7,000 that person made. Now, take away your expenses, your dog food, your medicines, your vet, your vaccines, and all these microchips and all that stuff. And then you take away how much money you have. Now, you probably have maybe $5,000 left if you're really, really batting 1,000. But you're not. You're probably going to take away less than that. So that means $3,000 a year. Now, there's nowhere in the country you can live on $3,000 a year. Homeless people, I think, make more than that. So think about it now. So let's say they have 10 females, right? And a couple of males. And those females every year are being bred every single year. And there's 10 of them. So now if you have that many dogs, you need a kennel license. You need all these things, which is going to cost more money. And you're making $30,000 a year. Now in some areas of the country, you can live on $30,000 a year, but you're not taking into account the expenses of vetting those dogs, grooming those dogs, feeding those dogs, and all the other care that is involved in breeding those dogs. So I can tell you right now that these places who are selling these dogs, and yes, some of them sell them for $2,000, $3,000. Okay, and that's going to up the ante a little bit. But there's advertising costs, marketing costs, website costs, and all that. They're just pushing these poor dogs to breed and breed and breed, and you're part of that misery when you buy one of those dogs, right? So what's the right way to buy a dog? That's what the next thing you're going to ask me. Well, first of all, you're going to try to get a referral, right? And there's a lot of really good breeders. Yeah, there's great rescue stores like the Shelter Hope Pet Shop here in Southern California. My friend Kim started. I think it's fantastic. They go to shelters, they find the puppies or the smaller dogs, and they adopt them out. Kim's amazing, done great work with this, and I applaud her. I remember when she started it, I supported it from day one. I think it's great. But for the most part, people are going to go and get a dog from a puppy mill because they're not going to do the research, right? They're not going to find the good breeder. And the good breeder is a breeder who's going to take that dog back if something goes wrong, is going to health check the dog, is going to stand behind that dog if there's some kind of an issue with it, has done health checks on the parents, and probably has had the parents and the grandparents of that dog, and has not overbred the dog, maybe bred the dog a few times in its lifetime. The female, I'm saying the males can breed all the time, but the females, can only breed a few times. And if they're overbreeding them, they're just not caring for the dogs. And that's part of this puppy mill bullshit, where they just don't care about the dogs. The dogs live in a cage, and as soon as they come into heat, bam, they get pregnant. Then they have the puppies, they rip the puppies away, and the female, boom, she gets bred again. It's a disgusting, horrible way of life. And if you believe in human rights or female rights, then you should believe in dogs' rights, because they have a right for this too. So I don't buy it. I will not buy a puppy over the internet, because what happens all the time, and Janet and I have friends who will say, oh, I'm looking on the internet, I found a really great breeder. You should see the facility they have. Now, this is the bullshit with the whole Instagram crap that you see all the time now. You see, all these women with this makeup and these dresses and the air, what is it called, the face tuning and stuff, and then you see them and they don't look anything like that. I'm going to tell you, Janet's the most beautiful woman in the world, and she looks stunning whether you see her on Instagram or when she wakes up in the morning. Stunning. No bullshit, no hiding, no airbrushing, no face tuning or anything like that. But and I'm not segueing into anything here. I'm just saying that the whole hype that you think that because you saw the dog on the internet or you saw the facility on the internet, you think it's a great facility. It's not, right? You're not even you're probably, I should say, not even seeing where those dogs are being bred. Those dogs are being bred some backwoods of Arkansas or Missouri or something like that. And no slammed on my fans out there, but these dogs are not being bred on this beautiful ranch in Montana or in Utah where they do this. It's not going on, right? A lot of these puppies, they're bred by the Amish, and Amish probably are really nice people, but they're not really that cool with their dogs. Sorry. Right? There's stories not too long ago about these breeders, and I think one was Amish, who went out and they couldn't take care of their dogs, so they shot the dogs behind the shed, and that was legal, and it is still legal to do that, to humanely put your own dog down, whether you shoot it or give it an injection. So if you can't afford to feed your dog and you're a puppy mill, you're a really crappy person, and that's kind of what you're supporting when you're delving into this whole puppy mill thing. So most every dog that's going to be a Christmas gift or any kind of gift is going to be bought through a horrible situation. And trust me, those pet stores you see in the malls, they're all fronts for puppy mills. So you go buy your little puppy there, and you put in a little puppy box, and you give it a little puppy wrapping paper, and you give a little puppy this, and you're contributing to puppy misery. It's really horrible. So there's no good way to get a dog unless you get a referral to the breeder. It's a legitimate breeder who actually has papered the dogs. And don't take just one of these things and say, oh, my dog has an AKC paper. Any idiot breeder can get AKC paperwork. I want to know health checks. I want to know backgrounds on the dogs. I want to know the temperaments. I want to know what the last breeding of that female and that male was. I want to know what health checks went on the male's side, on the female side. I want to know, was the puppy socialized early on? Was the puppy health checked early on? Was the puppy temperament tested early on? So before I give my kid a puppy, I don't have a kid, by the way. I'm just saying, it's a hypothetical here. Sometimes I just segue into hypothetical things like that. I have kids. I have a stepdaughter, but I don't have a daughter or a son, except for Maya, Goofy, and Dwayne, and Boz, and Jimmy. But before I'm going to put another dog with my dogs or my children, if I had children, I would want to know the temperament of the dog, right? I don't want to, just get a dog and take a wild shot at it. And, that's something that I'll tell you that people make a big mistake with. They get these dogs, we're getting a Borble. Well, Borble is not a great pet. Right? It takes a lot of work. It's a very, very dominant dog, just like Corsos or Pressas or Pitbulls or Rottweilers. These dogs require an immense amount of skill to own, to be with, and to socialize because they're going to grow up really big. And if you get one, you got your work cut out for you. So, Craigslist is horrible, by the way. It's, if you want to buy a bicycle or a car part, I think it's great. But to buy a puppy on, I think it's just one of the worst things. I had a client once who got a Malinois off Craigslist. I almost didn't take the job, but I felt bad for the dog, and I actually met a buddy of mine who we met through this. But the guy was a moron, to buy his dog off Craigslist. And then he was the most irresponsible dog owner ever, who didn't even take time to train his dog. And, and of course, the dog ended up getting rehomed. They asked me, do you want it? And I said, no, I don't want it. And that's always the thing. Well, maybe Robert wants it. Robert doesn't want your dog. Robert's got his own dog. So think about that before you get your puppy. Here comes Goofy. See, Goofy's going to climb in my lap because Goofy came from a good breeder. And that's something people say sometimes I don't talk about Goofy coming from a good breeder, but he did. Came from a fantastic breeder, and he's got a fantastic life. And because of that, I can give you all this great information. I gotta put Goofy down. Goofy, you got to get off. Daddy's working here. You got to pay your rent. It's really, really that important. And, one thing I'm looking down at my notes. One thing you should really think about if you're going to get a puppy from anywhere, and let's hope it's going to be from a good breeder, that you should ask that breeder one huge question. What if I can't keep this dog? Right? What if I can't keep the dog and I got to get rid of it? What do I do with it? Will you take it back? And a good breeder will take it back. Just like a good rescue will take the dog back. They'll always, always, always take the dog back because they care about the dog. Puppy mills don't. Pet stores, they give you a 7 or 10 day, return or 30-day health check or whatever the bullshit is, but they're not taking those dogs back. And by the way, those pet stores and those puppy mills, when they have those puppies and those puppies don't sell, you know what happens to them? They kill them. They kill them, or even more inhumanely, they dump them in a shelter, which means other dogs are getting killed. Legitimate breeders don't do that. Legitimate breeders keep the dogs. And sometimes they'll have dogs that are a year or two old, and eventually they do place the dogs. And they're not going to breed again until all their dogs are placed in a good home. So anyway, that's that. I hope that helps you. Merry Christmas. Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas. And by the way, on the 22nd, it's Happy Hanukkah. Please, somebody, if you're Muslim, would you please send me a message and let me know what holiday you celebrate? Because I would like to wish you a happy whatever your Muslim holiday is. And the pagans say good Yule. By the way, I've got a friend who's pagan, and he wishes me a good Yule every year. And I never say I'm not pagan. I don't Yule, or I don't good Yule, or Yule, or whatever the hell it is. I say thank you. Merry Christmas. Because share your happiness, right? If you have a rose and it smells good, let somebody else smell it. If you know a really funny joke, tell it. Share a smile. You'll make the world a better place. All right, let me do a couple of quick Ask Me Anythings. This podcast might be longer than the other ones. Let me just see how fast we're running. It's going to be one of our longer podcasts. I should put my timer in front of me, but I didn't today. So anyway, Lydia says, I rescued a 2-year-old Rottweiler about 2 years ago. He should be about 4 now. And after a week of having him, he became aggressive towards people, only after invading his space or unpredictable actions. He growled and warning bit at family members, children, men. When we first got him, he was not fixed, so perhaps remaining testosterone played a factor in his aggression. Probably not, but it could. After months now of work, he has improved significantly. He will allow familiar people near his face, can tolerate hugs, has more confidence, and an overall complete 180 from the dog he was. That's awesome. He is incredibly intelligent, eager to please. He picks up new skills and tricks very quickly. He loves the structure that commands and training give him. This leads me to believe he could become a brilliant service dog for my disability. I don't think so, but anyway, let's keep going. He would do light mobility and medical alert. However, as a service dog, he would be held to a high standard of behavior, would need to tolerate all condition distractions, strangers, etc. Granted, he is able to be trained sufficiently. Should his past of aggression be a significant deterrent? Yes. Or can he eventually be trusted to behave properly? Okay, that's a great question, and I applaud you for trying to make the dog a service dog, but don't do it. Right? Service dogs are bulletproof in all situations. And you are not going to be capable of putting your dog through all those situations, so you're going to end up failing the dog, because at some point something's going to push the dog past. And if the dog had it early on, and he was 2 years old, you don't know enough about the dog's history, I say no, sorry. If you really need a service dog, you got to get a professionally trained service dog. I really have an issue with fake service dogs or service dogs that aren't really cut out, especially if they're not super social and neutral, right? The key is being neutral. They shouldn't even care about other people. Look at Jimmy. Jimmy was a seeing eye dog, and we don't use him as a fake service dog. You shouldn't. I wouldn't do it. No. William Grimberg says, what is the percentage that you use a prong collar in your balance training? What makes you decide when to use a prong collar, and just about how many actual, and what training tools would you suggest to get into professional training? Okay, so part of it, you're asking me how to be a professional trainer, and the way I would do that is start training your dog, help your friends with their dogs, go to the shelter and volunteer. That's the way I did it. And I don't really know a percentage. I mean, a prong collar is always an option for me with every single dog I train, but a lot of times dogs don't need them. I'll give you a super great statistical example, is that more than, much more than half of the dogs I train are going to be in shelters. Because in a shelter, I'll see 30, 40 dogs in a day. And none of those dogs get prong collars, because shelters are dealing with crazy animal rights people who won't let people like me put prong collars on dogs for fear that the dog might get hurt or might be abused. It's not that it's abused enough in the shelter, living every single day in a cage, but that I'm going to put a prong collar on and teach it manners. But I will tell you this, every single dog I have owned, every single dog has had a prong collar on or an electric collar on, and every single one of my dogs is super well behaved. So take that as you will. Marco Brutus, kind of reminds me of Marco Aurelius. Marco Brutus said, that's a great name, by the way. If that's really your name, that's a super cool name. Buying a home soon, next 6 months or so. Any tips on making a move as stress-free as possible for my dogs? Not a far move, so no long distance traveling to worry about. Mostly asking about packing, unpacking, moving. Yeah, okay, so that's a great question. So one thing you want to do is take familiar things from your old home and bring them to your new home. So don't wash their bedding. Don't, have some clothes of yours that are not washed. Take them to visit the new home a couple times if you can. Take them to that new home, let them hang out there, feed them there, and then take them back home. Get them used to the new environment without really stressing them and keeping them there, and then you'll see it's going to be a super easy transition. Stephanie, you guys really send these long emails, and it's really hard for me to go through them all, but I'm going to try this one. Stephanie says, I'm at a loss. We got a puppy after waiting a really long time because we had a daughter that was fighting cancer. I'm terribly sorry. I shouldn't have even said you can write as long as you want if your daughter fought cancer. I'm an idiot, but I said you wrote a long email. We finally decided to get a dog, a cockapoo. Now, I would criticize the cockapoo, but since your daughter had cancer, I'm going to just give you complete free rein. He's now over 6 months. The first thing we noticed was crate guarding. Then it moved on to food guarding. And within the last 2 days, he has bit both my daughter and myself. He actually drew blood. And his newest aggressive guarding, sleeping by the front door. It can be at any time during the day. He will sleep by the floor vent in front of the door. And if anyone tries to move him, even the door opening, he will attack. I've spent the day crying and trying to figure out, if I should rehome him or if I could ever fully trust him around my two daughters. And the answer is probably going to be no. They're 10 and 8. They're afraid of him now, which breaks my heart because we all suffer from PTSD, and we decided to get dog to help with anxiety and fears associated with my daughter's cancer. You're killing me here. I'm also emotional because my idea was to train our dog specifically for therapy for kids fighting cancer. I'm completely at a loss right now as to what to do. I don't want to have to take anything else away from my girls because they wanted this so badly. I just don't want to put them in danger. Please help me, please. Stephanie, you're killing me here. I'm sorry that your daughter has cancer. It's a crappy thing. I wouldn't trust the dog. I just wouldn't. It's a cockapoo. I've seen super aggressive Cocker Spaniels. I've seen super aggressive Pitbull, Shepherds, Malinois, everything. So, your number one job as a mother is to protect your child. That's your job. That's what you got to do. And you're doing a fantastic job at it, by the way. Whoever sold you this dog, I don't know where the dog came from, but you should go back to the breeder. You should go back to the breeder and just read them the riot act, because This kind of aggression kind of stuff is usually something that's inbred in the dog through bad breeding, through what I was just talking about, how, no health checks, no background checks, no a temperament test or anything like that. That should have been clear. If you have 2 kids and a daughter who's fighting cancer and you're buying a puppy, that you should be crystal clear that that dog is a good dog. I mean, what you should do is find a really good Labrador breeder or poodle breeder or something like that, and ask them if they have an older dog that's already calm, that's already been around kids. Maybe they rehomed somebody. Maybe somebody had one and couldn't keep it because they moved or some crazy thing. And that's what you should do. You should give your daughters and yourself the best life possible. And honestly, with a dog like that, if you're afraid and he's drawing blood, it's not a good dog. And do not have it around your kids. I know there's going to be trainers who are going to go, oh, well, we could train it and this and that. Great. I'm going to tell you this much. Aggression is never trained out of a dog. It's managed. That's it. It's never to be trusted 100%. And that's simple as that. That's what I say. I've trained a lot of dogs. I've trained a lot of aggression. I don't trust the dog. And the reason I'm good with dogs is because I don't trust them. I know what I'm looking for. Just like I was a martial artist. I don't trust the other fighter, right? I keep my guard up. If boxers keep their guard up, you need to keep your guard up as a mom. Long answer, long question. Hope that helps. Jeff says, Robert, I have an 8-month-old Rottweiler puppy. I got it 8 weeks old. He's obedient on his best behavior with me, except for when he wants to roughhouse, which is pretty often, LOL. But as I leave the house, and he is alone with my girlfriend, he starts getting into the trash, getting into shoes, biting at her, and jumping up on the couch, running in circles like a madman. He absolutely does not listen to her and is hurting her with the biting. Do you have a suggestion for us? Yeah, Jeff, first of all, your dog is doing this because he sees your girlfriend as a playmate, right? As a playmate, as a play partner, I should say, as a pack mate. And he is not respecting her. So she's never really done the hard work of telling this dog, knock it off, and giving him corrections. Now, at 8 months old, it's going to be hard to do this. She should have been doing this at 8 weeks old. Maybe you guys weren't together then. I don't know. Too personal. But she needs to get involved in the training, right? She needs to get this dog under control, and he needs to listen to her. And he cannot challenge her. So she has to learn this. And you might need to get a balanced trainer in that to show you and her how to really interact with this dog in a safe manner. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for a huge failure. It'll get worse because she's going to start to have a conflict with the dog, and the dog's going to see it as a conflict, and the dog's going to bite her, and then she's going to get scared, and you're going to lose your girlfriend. You got to do the right thing. And then usually I wouldn't say get rid of the dog, over the girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm going to catch shit for that too, but you need to protect your girlfriend. Seriously. Get a balanced trainer, work on this, get some good training on the dog. Puppy Tail says, Robert, I'm thinking about adopting a Pitbull puppy, and everyone tells me that I should not adopt a Pitbull unless I have had experience with this breed. They told me the same thing about adopting a German Shepherd. I am not sure what they mean. Could you please show us how to train a Pitbull puppy who's going to be nice to other dogs and children and also protective of the owner? So you don't want that. You're already on the wrong path there, Puppy Tail. A dog that's protective of the owner is a dog that is usually weaker, right? Because it's assuming a more dominant position over the owner. My dogs don't protect me unless I tell them to, and then it's a game. They go bite, they go do this, they go do that. But they don't go just like, oh, I'm going to protect Robert because, whatever. They look to me for that guidance, and that's important. That's important for the dog to understand because you can't just have a dog protecting you. So first of all, and they're really talking about any dominant breed, German Shepherds, Pit Bulls, Mastiffs, Corsos, Rotties, Presses, any dominant breed, any dog that's not like a Labrador or a Poodle or anything like that. And what you really need to do, you need to get the dog early on. You need to overly socialize the dog in positive experiences. Pit Bull, if you have a Pit Bull, you're going to really, really need to socialize this dog with safe dogs. Good experiences. No getting bit, no getting challenged, no getting dominated, no getting pinned down. None of that bullshit. Because as soon as that happens to pits, they have a bad attitude, right? They're terriers, so they're gonna embrace their asshole attitude as opposed to their nice, be cool attitude, which they have both. I can tell you that right now. And a really well-bred, well-raised, well-socialized Pit Bull is a great dog. But you need to do a lot of basic training with the dog. You need to give the dog a lot of structure. You need to crate train the dog, get the dog socialized around children, birds, chickens, cats, dogs, cars, bicycles, whatever it is, in order for the dog to have a really good life. That's important, and that's what you got to think about. And I would really think about it before you get the dog. Okay, question. Okay, it's the last one. We're really way over time. I hope you guys are still even tuned in. Kiara Visa says, I am a truck driver, and I'm seriously considering getting a German Shepherd puppy. How do I potty train? And is there a way to potty train without a crate? Also, do I allow my puppy to pull on the leash when she is searching for a place to potty? or do I correct her? And what food do you think? Man, you're asking me a million questions. First of all, can you potty train a dog without a crate? Yes. Harder. You got to keep an eye on the dog, make sure the dog gets out, finds a place to relieve itself. Do I allow my puppy to pull on leash when she's searching for a place to potty, or do I correct that? Well, I mean, if you want the dog to potty, I wouldn't correct it, because then the dog will think you don't want the dog to potty. And what food do you think is best? Look at their ingredients. Look at, the best, most natural food. Right now, I'm feeding a great food called Lucy Pet Food. I really like it a lot. I'm working on a video with Lucy. So Joey, if you're listening, we got to get that video going. But feed them really good food. So anyway, that is the end of the podcast. This will be the longest podcast I've ever done. Please, 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 if you don't listen to anything else in this podcast, do not get anyone a Christmas puppy. That is the whole point of this podcast. Do not get anybody a Christmas puppy. Christmas puppies are a bad idea. But just in spite of that, I want to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next time.